than otherwise. One of the other thing that you should do is, once let's say you have started following Agile now you are applying Agile, you are doing your daily stand-up meetings, your sprint planning, sprint retro. Something that you should do periodically is to check yourself. Are we on track? Are we following Agile in a correct manner? So something that you might want to do is do an agility assessment for your teams. Are we doing it in a proper manner? Are there any gaps? Are we missing something? How to explore? You can also think of having some professional consultants or coaches work with you and identify if there are any gaps, if you are not following in a best possible manner, or there is any scope for improvement. You should also see that there is no downward hill observed, which means people's interest is going down, or the benefit that you would have expected is not getting realized. And you should also be careful about any dysfunctional symptoms or failure modes. And we'll talk about some of these failure modes. This is something that you should be careful about. Is it the case that the senior management is not fully sold on Agile, or they are saying that you guys go and implement Agile but don't ask us when it comes anything from our side? Is it the case that the organization's culture itself is not really supporting the change, because transitioning to an Agile is a major change and the organization should definitely support that? It could also happen that either the retrospective meetings are not happening at all, or if they are happening, they are not effective. Nothing concrete comes out of it, or nothing gets implemented after they are done. The next is team members are really pressurized because it's Agile. They want to develop things one after the other, and in that rush, they just make changes very randomly, and the quality gets impacted because of that. Another issue could be that the planning is not effective. The release planning, the iteration planning is not really happening in the manner in which it should. The changes in requirements are still happening in the middle of the iteration, and your product owner or your scrum master are not controlling that. Then this is definitely one of the failure modes. Some of these things, if they are present in your projects, you definitely need to work on them immediately and try to fix them before it becomes a failure mode for your project. And some of the other issues could be that you're still seeing status reports being floated around. So your environment is not really transitioned to Agile. Some of the other issues or failure modes that you can see is there are multiple product owners, or the product owners are not available, or they are too busy. They're working with customers and then they are not available for you to review a product prioritized list, or even create a product backlog in the first place. If the Scrum Master or your project manager is using command and control style, then definitely you're not going to build a very cohesive and self-managing teams. You might, if you're seeing teams are still following development team versus QA team versus documentation team, and they're not working together as one single cohesive team, then this is definitely one of the Agile failure modes. If you see that technical debt is continuously accumulating, the definition of done, when to call a story as completed, if that is not clear, that could be one of the issues. And if a lot of these issues keep accumulating, then the team might feel of going back to the old ways where it was working, or whatever ways they were doing earlier. So you should be definitely watchful of these failure modes and should ensure what are you going to do to not get into that mode. One of the things that you can do is to identify what is the waste. In our entire process, what are the places where a lot of time is getting wasted? As in this example, if you see, there are some places where it is taking more time, and because of which the entire delivery is getting delayed. If you have any such waste in your projects, then you should identify them. Some of the wastes in software development are mentioned over here. If you are having a partially done work, then that's a waste because you might keep working on it again and again. If you are giving extra features than really required, that's a waste. If you have to do continuously relearning, or there's too much time happening on handoffs between dev and QA to build engineer team, there are a lot of delays inherent in your team. Team has to do a lot of task switching, or there are too many defects. Any of these could become waste in your software development, and they are going to eat up more time in your entire cycle. So you should be watchful of those. You should also be watchful of Agile hype cycle. So what that means is, initially there'd be a lot of excitement to go for Agile. People would have reached to a peak of inflated expectations. But over a period of time, people might be having a lot of disillusionment. They might have a lot of They might feel that, hey, this is not what we expected. Our productivity is not getting doubled. Our outcome is not getting doubled. So we still have a lot of issues coming up. And once you actually handle this particular phase effectively, then you can enlighten your team, and then you can get a plateau of productivity where team now understands how to make it work. They have figured out how to map it to their environment, and then they are making it work. Some of the best practices to make agile work